Hey there, this tutorial is going to assume you have some basic programming knowledge. If you know how functions and variables work, you're probably good to go. Links to both assets and codes will be in the description. First, we're going to start with the HTML. We're going to put in some boilerplate code. As you can see, I've linked a style sheet and a JavaScript file. I've also created a game element. This is where all of our game objects will be put into. We're going to start with the bird itself. This folder already has loaded in the assets for this Flappy Bird. The bird has an ID of bird and a class of game component. The game component class gets a positional absolute. Using this, we can use the top and left attributes to dictate horizontal and vertical position. The bird itself gets a width of 51 pixels. Onto the JavaScript, we're going to start with these two functions. These take an element, return the numerical value that corresponds to the top and left attributes of said element. This third function is going to take two numerical values in an element, set the top and left attributes to correspond to those numerical values. We're also going to create a start function, which we're going to call. Now, if you reload this page, you should have a bird at about 18 and 40 pixels away from the top left corner. At the top of the JavaScript, we're going to create a delta variable. This will later be used to dynamically measure the time that has passed since the last frame. Using that, we can make it so the game runs at the same speed regardless of frame rate, which makes it more compatible across devices. We're going to add the lmove function. This takes an element and two numbers, moves the element relative to its current position. This also multiplies by delta, which is useful later on. We're going to add a running variable at the top. This dictates whether or not the game is paused because you have died or something similar. And in the start function, we're going to set running to true, and we're going to do request animation frame update. This will call the update function, which we're going to create about 60 times per second. Before we create that, we're going to create a bird's dy variable. This dictates the vertical speed of the bird, and we're going to declare the update function. This increases the bird's vertical speed by a bit, so to simulate gravity, it's going to move the bird by its vertical speed, so it actually moves along with its speed, and is going to request animation frame, so it keeps executing update each time it finishes about 60 times per second. Alright, let's test this out. It does exactly that. It's kind of irritating how the bird immediately falls once you start the game, so instead of that, we're going to remove start from here, going to add a button to the game in HTML. We're going to create an init function, which will actually be called right at the start of reloading the page. And we're going to add bird dy equals 0 to the start function to make sure that the bird doesn't fall immediately at maximum speed. So if you now reload this web page, the game only starts when we click the button. Currently the bird is false, so we're going to add an event listener to the whole document, so regardless of where you click, it'll get activated. This will set the bird's vertical speed to -6 or -6 from its current vertical speed, which will allow the bird to jump or flap when you click. As you can see, it works correctly. It looks kind of bland, so we're going to manipulate its angle based on its current vertical speed. Using these two lines, it will just look up if it's going up, and it will rotate down if it's currently falling. Let's test that. Works as advertised. Depending on what system you're currently following this tutorial on, you may have some issues with everything going by too fast or too slow. These are the frame rate issues I was talking about earlier. So to fix that, we're first going to create a delta timestamp variable. In the update function, we're going to update both delta and delta timestamp. And in start, we're also going to set the timestamp to when you start, so that it doesn't count everything before you push the start button as the first frame. Now, if you reload, it should work if it was too fast, too slow before this. Currently, the bird can flap, but there's no obstacles, so we're going to add a create pipe function. This takes whether the pipe is facing up or down, and true or false, and two positions. It creates a pipe at the corresponding position. It is going to create an image element, set its image source to pipe.png, add a game component and pipe class, and if it's supposed to be facing down, also add the down pipe class, set its position and add it to the game. In the CSS we're going to add two classes, one for the pipe and one for the downwards facing pipe. This one just sets the width, this one flips it vertically. In the actual Flappy Bird game the pipes also move, so we're going to create a function, update pipe. This takes one pipe as a parameter. So we're going to have to execute this on each and every single pipe that is currently within the scene. In the update function we're going to add this, which will take every element with the pipe class and execute the update pipe function on that, which will just move it to the left for now. To test that out, we're going to add a create pipe down here. False, 100, 100. And let's see if it works. Right, once we start, the pipes start moving to the left. Great. The pipes usually come in pairs of two, so we're going to create a function that generates two pipes at the same time. It only takes an x coordinate. The vertical position will be randomly generated. It will call create pipe 2 times, with the second one being quite a bit lower to leave a gap for the bird to fly through. Now if we call generate pipes down here, there should be 2 pipes, and when we refresh, the pipes are in a different position. In Flappy Bird the pipes keep scrolling endlessly, so in the update pipe function we're going to add a bit of code. The first line gets the left edge of any given pipe that is within the update pipe function. After that we get an if statement to check if it has reached the edge of the screen. If so, the pipe gets removed from the game, and if it has the class down pipe, it also generates a new pair of pipes at the other edge of the screen. Now if we test this out, it keeps on generating new pipes. Currently, however, as you may have noticed, the bird does not die when it collides with the pipe, so we're going to fix that. We're going to create a die function. Let's put that right here. This will basically just log to the console that you died and call the init function. And inside the init function we're going to add a piece of code. This will take all game components. If it's the bird, it just gets set to invisible, and if it's a pipe, it actually gets removed from the game. Now we're going to add some more code to the start function. This will also go through each game component. It will set it to be visible again and resets its coordinates. Alpos bird should be below that, as the bird does have a set of coordinates it needs to keep. And after that we're going to need one more thing, which is collision with the pipes. We're going to add a bunch of code to the update pipe function. First of all, we've got this, which will calculate the left, right, top, bottom edge of the given pipe and the bird, so that it's easier to measure whether or not it's colliding. We're going to add an if statement under that. The first if statement checks whether the bird is within the horizontal coordinates of the pipe. The second one checks whether it contains its downwards facing pipe or its upwards facing pipe. And based on that, it checks whether the bird is above or under the pipe. And if it is, it will call the die function. Now let's test this out. Works as intended. Now lastly, we're going to generate the pipes at more appropriate coordinates, and we're going to do so within the start function so that you can keep on playing the game after you die. These coordinates will make it so that pipes regenerate at a consistent speed. And finally, to complete it all, I'm going to add quite a bit of CSS code. This is more supposed to be a JavaScript tutorial, so I'm not going to go in detail over it. But the most important one is the overflow hidden within the game, which will just hide the edges of the screen. Now if we check it once again, you can see it has generated the pipes. The bird seems to be cruising through them, and once we hit one, it resets, it will log you died. That's it for this Flappy Bird clone. Hope you have fun with it, and thanks for watching.